Hi, this is Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 88, sending 121 gigawatts directly into the Flux Capacitor. Recorded live Sunday, May 5th, La Cinco de Mayo, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I am Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief over at iTechGear.org. And, you know, kids, we've got a full crew today, which for us is a decent that we haven't had a full crew here in a while. So joining us today live from his version of iTechGear, the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications, Mr. Larry McJunkin.
Hi there, guys. I tell you what, it's great to be here. I've felt better. I'm kind of fighting something, tummy issue, but I did not want to miss the show tonight. I knew all of us were going to be here, and on the weather, I tell you what, I don't know, Joel, you've got relatives near me, but I don't know what they've told you, but the last couple of days, we've went from spring to full bore summer, just like overnight.
I'm sure.
I'm over it.
That's, you know, I get that. I get that. It's warm here as well. It's a balmy 61 right now. But it
changes slower where you are, I think.
Yeah. But I agree that the Ohio Valley may be just a tad warmer with a little bit more veracity, if you will. So,
yes,
but glad, and those dulcet tones there, the former contributing writer over at Gear Diary, currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show, and living in the Retro Arcade podcast, and of course, editor at large, or at trimming. Would you?
Yes,
you get the whole at trimming. Brother Joe McLaughlin, how are you, sir?
I am tired but doing great. We had a car hit a pole just to the south of where my house, and we had no power from 12:45 this morning until probably about 11 o'clock this morning.
Oh,
so yeah, I had little sleep, but man, I'm up on caffeine today. So did a show before that happened on the Retro Arcade on video games that were band centric. Like the very first one that I remember was the Journey video game in 1983, and then of course
band centric. Okay.
Band centrics.
Okay,
that was actually a good game. I remember that game.
And then you got Revolution X with Aerosmith, and then of course the Guitar Hero line. So, but that's something a lot of people don't really think about is how just tied to pop culture video games are. So.
Yeah. Oh, very true. Very true.
More now than ever.
Yes,
absolutely.
And lastly, but certainly never, ever leastly.
Leastly.
Hey,
leastly.
And we say that with a capital meh.
Seriously?
Of course, the dulcet tones of the former contributing editor over at Gear Diary and Pocket now, and of course, editor at large or at trimming, depending on how you want to look at the weight going up and down. Mr. Chris Gavula, how are you, sir?
Glad to be back this week. I had a week full of a medical journey, one of our getting older things, right? So
it's a beautiful thing, is it not?
Yeah. I've had a lot of things all going on all week I've had to do, and more to come over the coming weeks, but doing well and hanging in there and all that other stuff. So here we are again.
Good. It's, and it's nice to have everybody here, especially for this particular episode. Not just because our flux capacitor.
Why this particular episode? Why this episode?
Well, that's not just because our flux capacitor is fluxing.
Because when this baby hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious stuff.
Hey, at my age, we don't hit 88 miles an hour too often anymore.
No, not that. That's very, very true. That's very, very true. But the iPad event, the May 7th iPad event is coming up. It's actually in 2 days.
Tuesday.
So this is Tuesday, May 7th. And there's some interesting stuff that's coming up.
Yeah.
From this
maybe.
a potential, yes, because
Theoretically, let's just say theoretically.
It's coming, boys. It's coming.
It's
We know
coming.
it.
It truly is. But I will say this: the it ain't well, it ain't got a thing, and if it ain't got that swing, or at least until
Do
Tim
I?
swings on stage, and announces what's going to be what.
Yeah.
Because Apple always plays things very tightly to the chest, and they don't necessarily.
They do a good job of that, really.
They do. They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And
They don't leak the way that Google deliberately leaks.
Well,
no,
usually-
Google
Right.
because
uses
they do
that
it
to their
deliberately. I
advantage,
mean,
though. They
Yeah.
really do.
Absolutely,
they-
they absolutely do, and that's just the way that they build their marketing, so to speak. And Apple doesn't do it quite the same way.
No,
not usually,
no.
anyway.
No, and
So
you
it's
know
always
what I think
interesting.
is amazing about all that is simply the fact that they are not only are they able to do it, keep the cards close to the chest, they're able to do it consistently.
Pretty
All right?
consistently, yeah.
Right.
Once in a while, something gets out there, but
Right.
usually when it gets out there, it's followed by stories of somebody who was stalked, hunted, and tracked down until they were stopped.
Until the device got left on a bar stool somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. Right.
Poor Gizmodo. They are never going to get rid of that one.
One of these days, we're going to do a little short blurb on that, because I did ask an Apple employee once about just that. And there is a lot more to that than you would imagine. There is
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot.
Oh yeah.
There's a
That
Paul
cloak-
Harvey.
that-
There's a
that
Paul
black
Harvey.
cloak
There's
is
more
really
to the
big.
story.
There's the rest of the story, but yeah, the and
You
no
don't
matter
want to be the leak in Cupertino. You
Oh, that's
don't.
right.
No,
well, there's so
absolutely
much
true.
hype going with Apple products. There's so much hype going in this. I guarantee you that there are going to be people disappointed because of the hype. Because of the hype factor.
But once again, Joe. Once again, the hype isn't coming from Apple itself.
No.
It's
No.
not-
The media,
It's
the
not.
media, the media.
And
Like-
it's like, but they'll
like-
get blamed if it's not interesting enough, right?
Like,
Wait a minute.
Like the idea of the M4 being introduced in the iPad Pro before the Mac, which I think is just
I think it's possible because it's basically just another
maybe,
device. But is it likely? Probably not. But is it
No.
possible?
I
Sure,
would be
why
very
not?
surprised if that particular rumor ended up being true. The fact that
Right.
they're
Well,
saying
Yeah,
I'm going to
So
talk
why
about
don't we
that one.
why don't we itemize the rumors and
why
itemize
don't
the items?
Yes.
And then we
go
can
ahead
talk
and
about
do
them each
that.
as we go through it.
I've got those here handy.
I figured you did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there are a few, according to the Mac Rumors site that we for the story. That
And
we're
keep in
citing
mind,
here.
folks, we don't normally talk about rumors very much here, but we're a couple days out. It's interesting. We're just
Right.
having fun speculating a bit here. So.
Right, and it is fun with a little bit of speculation for everyone, especially right before Christmas Day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
we're right before. What you get here is what I'm going to shake the package and see what it sounds like.
There you go.
That's
Yeah,
what
so-
this is.
Right,
Well,
so
what
the-
we do know is there's going to be an 11 and a 12-inch one like usual.
Well,
and
Let Chris.
hold on,
Yeah, he's
hold
got the
on,
list.
hold on,
Yes.
hold on. The iPad Pro. All right.
Right.
The iPad Pro. The big rumor here is OLED screens. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're supposed to be OLED screens, and these panels.
And
If
I would say
you've
those
ever
rumors are
seen-
pretty solid. Let's say because let's
Those
be
ones,
honest,
yes.
the vendors who make those panels have kind of been leaking that for a while.
Well, yes,
Right.
They have.
So I
been.
think that's a pretty solid. And we all want. It's a good thing. It's a next step. It makes sense. Okay.
Right, and
Inky blacks and all that stuff. It'll be they'll probably give you a new name instead of calling it Retina and ProMotion. There'll be some new name that Apple comes up with, which is
Right.
what they do.
Right. Right, but
Even though it's
Retina?
just
I don't know what we call it.
and it's just an OLED display. It's nothing rocket sciencey, folks.
no, it's not
So,
rocket
man.
sciencey, but I will tell you that they are sexy as hell.
I'm
OLED
not disagreeing
displays?
on
Oh,
that. Yes.
Both Chris and I have OLED displays on the yoga books we have from Lenovo, and I will tell you,
And-
Or
And-
in
oh
our
my gosh,
TVs.
those
Well, and I
are
have a
just-
Samsung. I have a Samsung S8 Ultra tablet. It's a 14-inch OLED display. It's gorgeous. No question.
Absolutely. So those colors are going to be the rich, deep blacks. You're going to get a nice color gamut. You're going to get some really, really vivid displays. It's amazing. So there's OLED displays for both the 11 and 12 inch or 12.9 inch.
12.9, right?
Right. We're seeing potential changes in the outer case, in that this one may actually have MagSafe support, which I thought was interesting. Something that they haven't had available for this. So there's going to be some nice magnetic, kind of clicks with the chargers.
Maybe, or
Hopefully.
actually, MagSafe on the back would be a great option as long as they continue to have the USB-C, because USB-C is becoming really nice to have. I can plug in I got an SSD, a SanDisk SSD drive that I can plug directly into my.
I haven't heard anything about that going away at all.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Joel.
I don't know why
very
it would
useful.
go away. Why would it go away?
No, it wouldn't. It's a useful
and what
connector.
would they replace it with?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that and that's what I think. I guess I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking the different kind of MagSafe, like the MagSafe that's on MacBooks. So
I got you.
Yeah,
No.
This is more like the iPad one.
This is
iPhone,
or iPhone one. I mean,
yes,
sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, the magnetic charging support. All right, it's actually going to get,
Which makes a lot of sense. It should have had that a long time ago.
It should have.
Sure.
It should have. So we'll see that. We may see up to 4 terabytes of storage available on these.
Yeah.
And obviously, with all of those changes, you're likely to see a little bit of a price bump. And
there's
Mac
one
will be
more
surprise.
thing. There's one more change. The other change is the camera theoretically is moving to the long
side, right?
Yeah. So to make it more centered when you're using it as a video, as a
zoom and whatnot.
As a camera.
Well,
and the problem with that is, my understanding is if they do that, odds are very good that we're going to have the little island like we do in the phones, right? The notch,
right.
if you will.
right.
And
what they're also
trade off.
Right. So this is actually the front-facing camera, not the rear, right?
Correct.
That is supposedly moving to the side of the device rather than the top.
Correct.
All right. And then of course the price increase, Rick, is anywhere between $160 to $700, depending on how things go.
That one they don't know. I don't think we will know.
I don't think anybody's been consistent about that in their stories. At this point.
No, but that's what they are, in fact.
There will be an increase, I'll bet.
Right.
I absolutely think there will be.
The big story on the iPad Air side is, of course, a 12.9 inch model for the Air, which I think is actually kind of compelling. I think a lot of folks are really going to enjoy that particular, if it actually gets out there, because then they'll have a larger size. They can go to the larger size without necessarily having. Before you go
any further on the Air, I think that's important. That point is very important, because if the prices of the Pros go up slightly, you need something to fill in that back gap.
That gap, right?
A 12.9 inch iPad Air would notch in price wise very nicely just below them.
Yes,
below the Pro.
Them two trip probably.
Right. It also really, I think, completely cements the iPad Air as the budgetary version of the Pro.
Exactly.
Because now you've got the full product line. You've got the smaller 11 inch or 10.9 inch, and then you've got the 12.9 inch, right? So if what you're really looking for is the larger screen, now you've got the ability to step out of the Pro series and really go into a more.
So now the question is, and I think the rumored question right now is, and this is one that I see up for debate right now, is whether or not these iPad Airs are going to have the LED screens like they have in the current iPad Airs, or are they going to use the micro LED that we see in the current 12.9 Pro, right? And I think the odds are probably leaning toward the standard LED, especially if it's going to be a budgetary thing.
I agree. Right?
Yep.
So
we'll
see.
There.
I think you're right.
But that's the rumor. That's the big rumor with those.
That is the rumor, but we will see on Tuesday. The other thing that they are saying is that the Apple Pencil may actually get some changes to it.
I hear that. There's going to be a third generation now, right?
That's potentially an Apple Pencil 3. They may call it that. They may call it something else. But
yeah.
The big change here,
the Retina.
Gonna smack you hard. Anyway,
squeeze it instead of tap it.
The big change here is supposed to be haptic feedback and perhaps a squeeze gesture for the actual pen. So
Yeah, because the tap gesture, I have a pencil, the second gen one. The tap is very inaccurate. I can't consistently get it to go. One thing that's not even mentioned there that I wish they would have is the Surface Pen like eraser, like flipping it over like you do an actual pencil.
I've said this to a number of different people. Some of them actually have direct design input for whatever device it is that we were talking about. And everybody seems to say, yeah, man, that is one of the most natural sort of gestures that you can implement, or features that you can implement on a particular device's pen or pencil. And
but it's interesting.
Don't go after it.
Well, but it's interesting that you say that. It's only natural because our generation grew up with pencils that had erasers on the end. Before us, they didn't have erasers on the end. You had a separate eraser that you used to use. Right. So yeah, natural is to the eye of the beholder. But I do agree with what Joel said. I don't know if the tap was so much not as accurate, but the tap was clumsy. It was awkward.
It is.
I had to kind of move my finger around to tap the right thing. It was just always a little bit awkward as far as I'm concerned. Right. Whether it's an eraser on the end, or even a squeeze gesture that changes the tip to an eraser, something a little less clumsy. If they could come up with anything less clumsy, I would get used to it.
Sure. Yep. But it needs to be intuitive, and it needs to be something that's natural. All right.
And I might also add, throw the damn thing in the box, especially on a Pro.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I would agree. That would be a nice thing.
It would be make it part of the base price of the.
I don't see that happening, but I would
agree.
The
Pro model.
Yeah, I don't
of the Pro model. Make it optional for the Air.
I agree with you. I don't see it happening though, but that's
me.
But I would like to see it. I think it's a reasonable request. I don't see them doing it, but I think it's reasonable.
Right. The more people. The thing is the more people that have the pencil, the more developers have
reason to develop for it.
Right. It's just like in video gaming days, if you put an expansion port on the back of your system, it rarely got used because the game devs would not develop for it. So it's the same thing with the pencil. It's like it's like I have Procreate, I have LumaFusion, I have a few other apps that are specifically for the pencil, but honestly, there hasn't been a lot of new apps coming out for it.
No, I use it primarily for note taking, and I love it. I love the feel of it. It's great. But yeah, I'm with you, Joel. I'd love to see people to have a reason to develop more for it. But Apple can only take that so far. But including in the box would certainly be a way of doing that.
I think so. Like I said, it ain't gonna happen. But hey.
Money.
No, it won't.
Yeah, no, it's Larry, you got it right.
It would be
right.
The last thing that Mac Rumors is citing is that the only thing happening with Vision Pro, and then we're including it here simply because it is an iOS, iPadOS based sort of thing.
Wait a minute, did you talk about the M4 yet? Item number 2?
Well, it was sort of. Joel,
no, I think he's still talking about. I think he's still talking about the event.
I should have put my 2 cents then, because I'm going to go with the rumor mill on this one.
Hang on.
Go ahead. All right, Larry.
No, I'm just wanted to say that I'm going to side with the rumor mill on this one for 2 really good reasons. Why? Because A, they already have it developed. B, it's been in production for over a year. And foremost, Apple is already behind in the AI game. I don't care whether we like AI or not, they're behind in it. They are, period.
So you're saying,
and the M4 is their platform for AI. And I really, AI doesn't trip my trigger, but I'm in Warren Buffett's camp, and he's predicting, as I am, that when it's all over, AI is going to be more of an undoing and a mistake than it is anything else.
Okay. Well, I agree with that.
We will live to see that. Yeah, we will live to see that, folks.
Because it's already happening too. Because you got devices like the Rabbit. What's the Rabbit?
That piece up, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that and the badge thingy, and it's like, it's like I saw somebody write an article that says that the Rabbit device is going to kill the iPhone. I'm like,
But you know
Yeah.
how Apple, you
Yeah.
guys know
It's-
exactly how Apple works. They'll release this
Right.
M4 with the iPad. If it's a big hit, they'll move on. If it's not, they'll regroup.
Well,
Yeah,
as I said, we haven't seen a whole lot about the M4 chip coming
right.
at this
Yeah.
point. But let's assuming the rumor.
in terms of what it can do, where it might be, where it might land first, et cetera. Et cetera.
Yeah.
Well, the
but-
thing
but-
is the M series since the get-go has had neural engines in it. So there's, I mean,
Yes.
Right.
what else are they going to be adding to it that makes it even
maybe
more
more.
They
AI
know
maybe
what the
more.
M10's going to do. They just aren't telling us.
I think it's going to be
Well,
more.
yeah.
I think it's just going to be more of the processors for that.
Possibly?
I think that's all it is.
yeah.
Bundling more. That's what we're at right now, I think. But I
Right.
do think whether it's an M3 or M4, that's kind of a big gotcha. Are these going to be M3s or
Right.
M4s? Are we going? Because historically, the M4s have come out first. I think in typically like a MacBook Air type
Yes.
format first.
True. Very
The
true.
M series has come out the first time, but there's no reason it has to come out in one versus the other, right? I mean,
Yeah.
once we realized that, they were putting these M series into iPads,
Hey,
does it matter? I mean, if it's
Hey,
ready,
for-
put it
for-
in something.
there's nothing
And
there's nothing saying that it couldn't do iPads and Macs at the same time.
Absolutely
True.
true. But
No,
as
and
long
for
as
the
the
last
chip's ready,
10 years,
use
they've
it.
held this event at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And what is it this year? So they can
10,
change.
yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Whether or not it's an M4 or not, I do think that's the direction they're going to go. I got the impression though they're really been kind of pushed in this direction more than chosen to go in this direction. And I agree. I kind of agree. I don't think it's
Their
necessarily what they
sales are
should be
down.
doing.
Have you not read the numbers? Apple's
Yeah.
sales are down.
Yeah, they are.
Across
Across
the
the
board
board.
on everything.
Everything.
Yeah. And
True.
yet the investors are still very positive about them right now, which historically they weren't, by the way. So it's
Right.
interesting to see the investors positive right now.
Well,
And
I mean, here you go. The biggest investor of all is Warren Buffett, and he just
yeah,
sold $13 billion of Apple stock. But he says, I still like Apple. Well, of
Right.
course,
And
you're
wasn't
going to
there
say
also
that.
a
Right.
$1.3 billion buyback that just happened as well?
I know.
Well, and here's the other thing too that almost nobody's really mentioned. Maybe they could be reformatting the cameras so that it could be better take advantage of shooting things for the Vision Pro.
Right.
So-
they're
well, that's a
saying-
possibility too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was a rumor about that for the iPhone
Yes.
16,
16. Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
That may or may not happen based on some of the camera, or not the
Well-
camera, but the cases, some of the case dummies that,
Right.
that are floating around that may or may not happen.
But to cycle back to kind of what Larry had said, in the sense that, the big where we started with this was, gee, are they going to M4 or M3 it? But AI is a big thing. Apple's big on consistency in their lineup in terms of things working together.
Right.
If the chip is ready, if I were them, I'd put it in. If it's not ready,
Sure.
then I wouldn't. Then
But
I
the
would.
rumor mill has the chip ready. That's what I dug
Yeah.
in. I mean, if you read about it, that's what they're saying.
Well, I think what's interesting is that if they would go to the M4 in the iPads, I mean, you're going to see a lot of press and a lot of folks go bananas about that, in that the M3 is going
the
to
wrong
be
reasons.
the shortest lived chip in Apple Silicon history, if you will.
Well,
it hasn't been
and-
around
Well,
that
they're
long.
down to one chip a year now. They're doing a new
Yeah.
one every year. So it
If
doesn't
you go-
matter
if-
which
And
platform
if
they
you
put
go
it in.
back, if you go back to the release of the M3, it was kind of a disappointing release in a lot of ways. It didn't really perform the way people thought it would, and it had some compromises that they made. To me, it always felt like they were trying to transition something, like they weren't quite where they wanted to be yet. Maybe the M4 is that. Maybe they were preparing for this all along. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see if they do it or not. I think that's going to be. I think this is the thing that the tech press will go the craziest about or not. But for us as end users, we're all going to go, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think the press is going to go craziest about this fact, whether or not they go with the M4 chip or not. That's going to be the big
Right.
story for them on Tuesday.
I think
Right.
most people who are going to buy a new iPad will buy it no matter what.
I'm the same.
M4,
I'm there with
M3.
you, Larry. And I'm coming
I
from
mean,
a
I'm one of them.
2020.
I'm going to get one. But
I'm coming from a 2020 M1 based iPad
Mhm.
Pro, the 12.9, and I'm looking in this next year of replacing it. It's getting to that age where I want to replace it, and I skipped over the M2 version because it didn't have enough change for me to care. This has a
Right.
few things going on, right? This Pro has a few different things going on. Is it enough?
and
Yeah, maybe.
the pencil might have something going on. We don't know
Absolutely
yet. But
right.
Right.
Absolutely right. So, and I've got family members waiting to inherit my 2020 iPad. So we're good to go. They're like, "Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet?" So
have you bought it yet?
there's I'll call it secondary market anticipation after this event. So
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. And
So what else are they doing at
that's
this?
what I need to do, Chris. Maybe even though I just bought an M2 one, maybe I need to buy one and pass this one down to my wife.
There you go. So the other
she's
thing
yeah.
the other thing they're doing at this potentially at this event is a new keyboard, right?
right.
Yeah.
Only for the Pro. Only for the Pro.
Yeah, but it's always been only for the Pro primarily. I mean, the other ones came out after the fact. It wasn't initially out for anything
That's
other than the
another
Pro.
reason that I would buy that if I wasn't going to already. I'm a fan of the first keyboard, but it had problems, and I think this one will correct them.
I hope that I've heard the same thing, and I hope that they do. What I'm hoping they don't do is screw up what's nice about the first keyboard.
Well, I don't
Right.
think they will, but they're going to make this one aluminum, the whole thing.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't add a ton of weight to the whole process.
Right.
Because if it does,
Yeah.
I'm going to be unhappy. Because I'm big about it being light, not so much
Yeah.
thin, but physically light. I don't want to have to. If it's going to be as
Right.
heavy as my laptop, I'll just carry my freaking laptop.
Why not just
It-
carry
Right.
It might be lighter. You never know.
It might be, and that's a possibility. So I'm anxious to see where they go with this. Again, if they do is because the current Magic Keyboard's pretty light, and it's a very thin solution when you put it around the. It doesn't take up a lot. It's not a lot of bulk when you throw it in a bag. If this one's bulkier in any way or screws up the way it's positioned in any way, I'm going to be unhappy and I won't buy the keyboard.
Sure.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. You know,
Right.
it's like anything else.
Yeah, but
Right.
their design team's asking those same questions. to
I know they are,
themselves out
and
there.
they're no dummy. They are not dummies. With
No,
They've done a
they're
very
No,
good
they're
job.
not.
So, and I've been very happy with the Magic Keyboard. So I hope
Oh no,
the new one
the way it works
I
is
hope the new one
great.
I hope the new one just improves on it. It's potentially so, and it's going to be potentially aluminum, right? It'll look more like a MacBook. I don't care what it looks like, quite honestly, guys. I don't care.
Right.
I care about how it works. You know, I do understand it's going to potentially have a bigger trackpad. That's a big plus, guys. Everybody knows
Yes,
that.
it is.
I would love
know.
it if it had a little bit of an incline to it, but whatever. Yeah. It's not like I have.
I think other people. You got to be careful with that incline thing because the reason they didn't incline it in the first place was if you tip it much further back, it becomes top heavy and falls
Right.
over backwards.
Right.
And quite honestly, that's one of the huge problems I have with the current Surface Pro design. It's
Yep.
awful unless you're using it on a desktop. It's not good.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Right.
work well on a laptop. It doesn't work well sitting anywhere other than on a hard desk surface. Surface Pro
flat
doesn't work very
surface,
well.
it's not
Whereas the
laughable,
Magic Keyboard with the iPad, I can use it in a lot more places. It's a lot more functional in a lot more ways.
Agreed.
So that's a trade-off, and I don't want to see them screw that up. So tilting it back may create a problem. I don't know unless they have a way to counterbalance that a little better, and they might.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
right.
So
Now, the last thing that they may be doing with over at this particular event on Tuesday deals with the Vision Pro, and all they're really doing here is expanding the countries that it may actually appear in.
yeah,
All right.
Right.
UK, Canada, China, I believe, are what appears to be.
Maybe that's why we're missing targets on that too right now. Is that they're
It
trying
could
to
be.
reserve?
Yeah. No, we are missing targets, but we've talked about this. All
We
of
have.
us.
Yeah.
And there's so many great reasons why it hasn't sold. There's so many really good reasons why it should sell, But I still think one of the biggest reasons, as we talked about in the pre-show, is retention. It looks cool, like the Quest looked when it first came out, but the majority of consumers are going to buy it, they're going to play with it for a month, and they're going to throw it in a corner.
But you have to say why retention is an issue. The issue is that people aren't ready.
Yeah.
There isn't a killer app for VR or AR for that matter. I don't care. I don't care. You can separate those two markets if you want. I think that's stupid. It's the same market. But the bottom line is VR or AR. I use a Quest, a Meta Quest, reluctantly because I don't like giving Meta any more information than I have to. But I do use one, but it's for some very specific use cases. And unless you're in one of those categories, you're probably going to be like, well, what do I need this for? And it's it's cool, but you don't need it.
But what I'm reading is a lot of the big name developers, even the big name, are not biting on this. They're not.
Yes, you're right.
Their app, they're not making a version for this thing. They're not going to do it yet.
Right.
So
they're going to wait. It's a
it's
chicken and an egg thing. They're going to wait till there's a
absolutely.
There's a certain momentum. I get that, but without that, people don't go there. But you know what, guys? Go flash back a number of years. This is exactly the same problem that Microsoft had with
the Surface,
with Windows Phone.
And
that's exactly right.
You might have something that's a better product, and I would say that the Vision Pro is probably the best, if not one of the best, kind of VR type products out there. It's great. It's great hardware. But again, unless the apps are there, unless you have the use case for it, you're not going there, and neither are the developers. And that's
we all have our theories about this. Mine is that 10 years from now, if I'm here and so lucky to be here, I'm going to look back and say, oh, yeah, I remember that. The Vision Pro, yeah. I really don't think it will succeed long term. I really don't. Just me.
No, it's not just you.
I don't know, because again, I don't know. And we could probably go on all night about whether it's
there's a lot of good reasons
not.
Why it should.
It
last,
should.
But...
And there's a lot of reasons why it probably won't in some ways too. But I don't think it has to be a big market, and I think they can hang on to it for a while. But let's see.
I agree. Yeah, quite a few years.
And it might catch on at some point, because what may happen in that interim, and I think we've said this even at the beginning when the Vision Pro came out. What needs to happen with these kinds of things is a truly killer app. Some reason that people absolutely got to have this thing, other than it just looks cool.
Of those apps.
Well, but you don't even have to have 100. If you have one absolutely killer app, that'll drive people. I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, look at Nintendo. How much did they sell based on just the Legend of Zelda franchise? How many devices have they sold based on that one little franchise, or the Mario franchise? They've got several now, but it doesn't. The point is, all it takes is one killer product. The Legend of Zelda release got the Nintendo Switch launched out the door big time. That thing sold millions of copies just because of that alone. So one good app can drive. Hardware
that one
sales.
Good app might drive all those other developers to throw their hat in the ring.
Exactly. It becomes its own kind of prophecy. Will they get there?
Yeah, they don't want to be left behind.
I don't know. It depends on if depends on what it is. They may open a whole new category.
They don't want to be out there supporting a device that isn't going to go anywhere.
It's and they're all waiting.
Money, resources that they don't have to.
You don't see
Guys,
any of them
it costs a lot of money to develop software. I got news for you. That's not cheap.
And nobody, cheap. None of these guys, including the vendors that they've interviewed, that I've seen interview, have all. Matter of fact, there were some meta engineers that said this thing was amazing. They were stunned by this thing, and this thing should win and should do its thing. But the thing is, again, that's all said. That's all well and done. That's all great. It can be ready for all this other stuff, and it can be this phenomenal device and all that. But people, again, without the apps, aren't going to go there, and the developers aren't going to do anything until they think there's a market for it.
Plus, it has to be affordable, and now it's not.
I don't even know that it has to be affordable, because Larry, you said it earlier in the day. There are people that would give up their lunchtime for the next 3 years in order to buy one, affordable or not. But the point I'm getting at is, but if you get enough momentum going and get enough word of mouth going, and you have that thing that people want for a reason, then it'll get there. But it's not going to get there without that stuff.
Because right now we're spending that much for a not even fully loaded MacBook Pro.
Well, and they again. when the iPhone came out, everybody said nobody will spend this much money on a phone. When the high-end iPad Pro came out and it was almost $2,000, people said nobody will ever spend money on that, and they did.
They do.
And the point is, this is expensive. And again, there may be an Air version and a Pro version, just like there is with iPads. There may be something like that going down the road. But the point is, people will spend the higher amount if there's a reason to go there. And right now, there's no reason to go there right now for people.
Oh,
You
sure.
know, it's
Absolutely.
not there.
Right.
So here we go. Okay.
Right. So that's what's going to be covered, hopefully. And we've covered like 3 different stories in this one particular subject
We
of what's
did.
going to happen on May 7th. So hopefully we will find out more. Well, we will find out more on Tuesday.
We
but
will.
hopefully it will, we'll find the right things, or at least the things that we feel are logical. Hopefully Apple will agree, or will agree with.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
what
We've invited
happens?
everybody onto our show to talk to us. Please feel free.
Hey.
We'll be happy to give you our opinions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what else needs speaking of things that need to be changing and an opinion needs to be rendered, the Apple has finally acknowledged that there is an issue with iPhone alarms.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I haven't had this problem.
Nor have I, and I use my alarm a lot.
I do too, and I haven't run into this, but I have read a lot of the stuff that people talking about this issue.
And Apple has admitted
Yeah.
it, so that does mean it's there.
I haven't seen the specifics as to does it only happen to certain models, does it only happen in certain times, in certain conditions, but
Right.
they were talking about turning off some of the attention settings to correct it. And mine were on. Mine were not turned off, but I turned them off just cause I don't use them anyway. So
Right.
I decided to just do that. But okay,
Right.
So
No, I will tell you, I am not alone here. I, like you, use it to get myself out of bed.
yeah.
Yep.
All my meds, everything.
I know, Chris. You and I remember back in the Pocket PC days, we had a ton of problems with the alarms on the Pocket PC.
Oh my God.
They were horrible. They were
They didn't
just
work.
never even close to reliable.
They wouldn't fire to save their doggone lives. And a lot of times,
So I'm sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we with that hypersensitive sort of look at this, I haven't seen it. I haven't had it happen to me either. But
I have
at
read
least
what people
Apple
have
has
said.
now acknowledged that there is in fact an issue.
Yeah, and people are. There are some people that are definitely having issues with this. For some people, again, turning off
The attention aware feature.
The attention aware feature. That's under
Face ID
I'm sorry,
and
my
passcode.
Thank you. It's under Face ID, the passcode area. You can turn it off in that area. It helps some people, is what I'm reading.
Right.
I don't know if it helps everybody, but it helps some people. I think it's a great thing. I use alarms on my iPhones. I use alarms on Android devices, and I haven't had any trouble with any of them being unreliable in any way, shape, or form. But man, if you are having a problem and your alarm isn't going off at different times, I can understand why this is a big upsetting problem for you. I get it.
And it can be when they don't go off and you're expecting them to go off and you're banking on either getting up on time or doing.
I have had it where I accidentally set AM or PM incorrectly. I've done that before.
Sure.
I think we all have, but that's a different animal. That's me
our
as a
problem.
user. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
that's a
Larry.
PADCAC issue, right?
Whoops,
Yeah.
See, a CKI, as it were.
Yes. Yes. So Apple is also saying, though, that putting your device on Do Not Disturb or putting your phone on silent does not affect the alarm sounds. Those sounds
does not.
will go off and sound as
And
needed.
I leave my phone on silent almost all the time because I don't want
all the time.
I don't want people knowing when my alerts are going off, my alarms are going off. I don't want it
I go to
startling me when I'm in a
Auto D&D
meeting.
every night, and it still wakes me
I do
up.
it, but again, I do it not only at night, but I leave them off. I leave my audio flipped. I have everything on silent all day long, and I've never failed to have an
Because
alarm.
you're
But the alarms
working.
go off. But the alarms go off. They go off. I have no
Yes.
trouble with them going off ever.
Yes, they
So-
do go off, and that's the thing. I mean, you don't have your phone on
Right.
audio, right? or
Right.
the sound turn on
No.
because you work, right? And you don't want
Because I work.
right. You don't want that funky cold Medina coming on, when so and so calls you, right? Or you don't want the whole, I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Well, that was the last time you called me, but that's another
true.
story.
Right,
true.
right.
But my point is, you don't want those kinds of sounds, those funny ringtones,
No, of course
or
not.
whatever.
But the alarm, everybody knows what that alarm is. They're like, oh, did you have an alarm
yes.
stop? And I'll say something like, oh, yeah, it's for my next meeting.
Yes.
Or something like that is what I'll say. So
Right.
that's fine. I'm okay. I want the alarms to go off.
Right. So
and they work.
Neither of those two settings, which is important to know and understand, that they don't affect the alarm sound. So
yeah,
the
I think it's
thing that I
important to
don't
mention
like
that.
about Penn Live in the article that we're citing is that the last thing that they say, hey, get yourself a regular alarm clock. Man, if I would do that, if I needed to do, if I wanted to do that, I wouldn't have a phone and I wouldn't set the
Although I got to
alarms on
tell
my
you,
phone.
for years, I obviously even after cell phones came out, I think we all still had alarm clocks for a very long time.
Yep.
And some people still do because you want to have that, in your bedroom or whatever. I understand that. But the point I'm getting at it with that is, even those things didn't go off all the time. Hello, do people not remember this?
Right.
Do people not remember the problems we used to have with these things, both the digital ones and the mechanical alarms? Occasionally, they don't go off the way you think they're gonna. So yeah, that doesn't solve the problem.
No.
So the person who read the article is probably too young to remember.
Of course.
Of course.
Look, back in my day, we had to wind the clock physically. Okay.
Big
That
Ben.
was right after I walked both ways to school. In 5 feet of
Uphill
snow.
both ways, right?
Uphill both ways. Yeah, you guys remember.
Yeah.
Remember the story.
Get off my lawn.
Man.
Anyway.
Yeah. My goodness.
I want to go ahead, though, and I want to move us to our mobile Linux segment.
You do.
There's some unfortunate things that are happening over here. And
yeah.
Larry.
Yes, yeah.
Larry, quite contrary.
Yes.
Hi, Larry.
Hi there.
Thankfully,
we chatted about this a little bit earlier, and I think we hit on it. I don't know. Maybe I think Joel said something first about the type of developmental platforms these are. The Google is laying off some folks, and primarily in the Flutter, Dart, and Python teams. But let's face it, you can do the same thing that those three developmental platforms do with any number of others. They're probably wrapping those efforts up in other parts of Google. They're saving money that way. They're still getting the work done. I'm just guessing here, but you're going to have this stuff. This is one of the largest companies in the world. You can't avoid it. You're going to have it. So
the only challenge is if a platform stops supporting something, you can have that thing start to become impacted negatively. So will that happen in this case? Probably not.
I don't think so. No.
Probably not. But it's something to be aware of that can negatively, if the use wasn't big enough or carried enough social clout.
And they didn't say they were doing away with them either. They just said they were cutting them.
Yeah, and so, but they could say, oh, gee, Google's not going to spend money on that anymore, or support that anymore. Maybe we should move away from that. That can happen. Will it happen? Probably not. But it's something to be aware of. These things matter. Even so.
Right. And I think one of the reasons why this is making such news is because these layoffs hit key development teams a week or two before the Google I/O event, which is
well, also they had
14th and 15th.
But more profitability in that same period than any time in history. So if they're doing that good financially, why did they lay people off?
They had record numbers supposedly at the same time that they're laying off a bunch of people. That don't
sound good.
No, it doesn't look good anyway. You got to wonder what's down the road.
It
does not. And why would you normally right around a huge event like Google I/O, you're gearing up to do some new and happy and wonderful things. Why would you lay off right before it?
Yeah, timing seems a little off, doesn't it?
Seems a little dodgy. You know.
So it raises questions, but I don't think we have answers to any of those questions other than
No.
say, hey, something's up at Google. Don't know what. Maybe something
Right.
minor, maybe something bigger.
Right.
Don't know.
Don't
Well,
know.
like we were talking in the pre-show, a lot of these things are like, for example, Flutter, Dart, and Python. Python, dude, it's used everywhere.
Yeah.
And really, so is Flutter and Dart, although probably not as the extent as it's being used on
Python's
Android.
the big thing, yeah.
But Python is, it's like it's been around for I don't know how long now.
Well, and this could also
Right.
could also just be the natural. Gee, there are better things to do it out there now, and they're just migrating to that. That could be all it is.
Yep.
It's old. It's getting long in the tooth. Let's move on to something else. Maybe that's all it is.
Potentially,
Maybe.
but one product manager who was cited commenting on this said that a couple of layers above our team were effective, and a lot of teams were effective. Lots of good folks got some bad news, and lots of great projects lost people. So so this one cut deep. This one hit a lot of folks.
But they are, again, remember, the person saying that had a vested interest in it. So you take it for what it is.
True. True. But even
consider the source, good and bad.
Right. And also our next story, the Tesla is going through some of the same sort of machinations. Only they went ahead and they cut some folks from their supercharger team,
which makes absolutely no sense now. Since the Tesla connector is now the North American connection standard,
and the whole charging network is probably the biggest single barrier at least in the United States, to adoption.
Right. Yep.
So why would you do that now?
Well, the only thing that makes me wonder why would they do that now is, let's face it, EVs aren't selling.
They are not. But again, that's a chicken and an egg again, guys. It's a chicken and an egg.
Yeah. No, I will agree with you there. I don't understand.
I mean, he understood that when the Teslas first came out, that people wouldn't buy them unless there was,
a charging network.
And so he spent a lot of money helping get that built out for Tesla people. Well, if you walk away from that now, aren't you just
and it's
going
not
to hurt your other products?
Well,
the thing is, it's not complete either.
You're not just killing a product; you're potentially killing a whole entire platform.
Well, true.
Supercharger isn't complete. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. Is maybe the move to the next standard means that he's just going to rely on places like Electrify America and several of the other charging networks. But when you look at this that way, like for example, if I bought a Tesla, all right, and I drove it from Grove City, Ohio to Knoxville, Tennessee, guess how many superchargers are in Knoxville, Tennessee?
One.
Exactly one. And it's on the opposite side of town I need it to be on.
And we're a big town too. I mean, it's a pretty big city.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a significant
I mean, there's a lot
problem.
of little ones, Joel, like, 3 chargers in the Target lot and stuff like that, but not superchargers.
But love and hate, I was going to say love or hate Tesla. You're also going to, if you follow this at all in the kind of mainstream media or on YouTube or anything else, you're going to find that the Tesla superchargers tend to be more consistent and more reliable than a lot of the other companies. So the point I'm getting at is, if you're going to start saying, well, we'll just depend on these other guys who are doing this already as well anyway, that says that your customer's experience overall is going to be poorer, most likely. So wouldn't you want to stay in front of that? I would think you would. So I don't really understand it, the decision to back that particular aspect of the business off, but okay. Here we go. Interesting times, guys. Interesting
very,
times.
very interesting times. And I don't.
Yeah, a lot of these things I just don't understand.
To some of these, the layoffs are right now. I'm very, very lucky. I just landed a new role. Started completed my first week, and I consider myself to be very, very blessed to begin with. But I mean, what I'm hearing overall is that the job market in and of itself is really kind of rough. out there right now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and this is clearly seen in these layoff announcements that get passed around. I had told my kids about maybe 5 to 7 years ago, hey, everybody has computers, everybody needs computers. IT is still a safe place to go and invest your potential career in. That is not the case anymore, boys and girls.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's way too
Well,
volatile.
I would argue. So I think there's two challenges in IT. One is, you're right. It's certainly not the stability career-wise that it kind of was, but it never really was, because every time the technology's changed, you were potentially out of a job. And
Right.
you had to keep moving along with those and learning the new things and moving on. And it sounds like, oh, that's just job training. Yeah, it's more than that. I mean, IT
Right.
has more bigger changes than what you had, back in the day with maybe some mechanical kinds of jobs, or so what we used to call skilled labor.
Right.
Those things were different. I mean, basically, a lathe worked like a lathe. If you were an electrician, it worked the same way for 50 years. In IT, we have to change every 3 to 5 years. I mean, sometimes very dramatically to stay in the business. So the stability was never quite there in IT that people think it had. But what's happening now is more significant, because IT jobs, some of them are disappearing to AI. Use that term as loosely as you want, whether that's accurate or not. But that is theoretically being used as it's being used as the excuse for things, even if it's not valid or not.
Right.
It's still being used as a reason.
Right.
And what we're seeing, I think, is a very different market, in that nobody knows what's happening. So people are, and unfortunately, we're in the era. I like to call it the TikTok era, where anything longer than 30 seconds, people don't pay attention. So we're making knee-jerk reaction decisions without really thinking about the consequences of those decisions. More so than we ever have. And then we go, oh, oops. And then you say, oh, well, we're going to go back and do that. We shouldn't have gotten rid of so many people. Well, then you don't have any people to do it anymore.
Right.
You've gotten rid of all of them. I happen to know that. I mean, that's the same thing as we talk about EVs in general, as we've been kind of doing for the minute there, and you talk about moving from gasoline engines, what we call ICE engines, internal combustion engines.
Right.
The big manufacturers have let go of a lot of their engineers who knew how to work on those engines. And now all of a sudden the EV market didn't take off the way they wanted it to. And those people are gone. And so there's a challenge in getting people who can still work on that stuff and will work on that stuff. That's a problem.
I don't think this problem is only in IT. I think it's in a lot of other places.
I agree.
And it's certainly in the places like Microsoft. And I mean, I'm not naming them, but I do have a friend in a very large company who is a vice president. He is just as afraid for his job today. He's got 14 years of tenure with this company. He's still afraid. Every day they don't know what's going to happen. And I don't care where you are in the food chain, you're going to be afraid.
True. I think that's true. I work for a company that has had very good stability, and there's no guarantee, in a world where companies are owned by market capital firms, you have no idea where you're going to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the nature of the business. It's just the nature of the business.
And
that's true.
So I want to go ahead and move us to our Windows segment, but I want to go ahead and do this after this brief message. Hi, this is Christopher Spera with iTechGear.org, and I'm here to tell you that iTechGear.org and the iTechGear Weekly are on Patreon. Patreon is a platform for creators, allowing them to express their creative side in an organized, marketable fashion and earn a living or create a really cool kind of side hustle. You can create a community around your hobby of choice. You can gain followers. You can get members and supporters all along the way. You can create subscription products that, for a pledged amount every month, you'll provide to your members and followers. Setup is easy, prices are reasonable, and you can have your pledges auto-deposited into an account of your choice every month. With iTechGear.org, our initial offering is a monthly newsletter for just $3 a month. This is our initial offering, and we'll have other tiers and other products and other offers up in the coming months. Become a patron of our site. Grow with us, and we'll provide you with the tech understanding that you're missing right now. Join us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. That's www.patreon.com/iTechGear. And we're back. This is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 88, sending 1.21 gigawatts directly into the Flux Capacitor. And as I said, I want to go ahead and move us into our Windows segment. And, you know, this is always a bittersweet sort of segment for me, since so much of my writing career has always been wrapped
It's becoming,
around.
more and more bitter than sweet, though.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it's moves like this, things like this, that don't help Microsoft out. Recently, the April Windows updates came out, and unfortunately, if you have a VPN connection, you may be on the out as far as Windows is concerned, because they say that the April Windows updates break VPN connections. Help me out, Larry. I mean, come on.
Well, I will. It's a proven problem, and Microsoft is absolutely looking into it. But I think what's more disheartening to me is it's another line item on the long growing list of Microsoft problems this year.
Yeah.
And believe me, they've not been having a great year. So here, riddle me this one, guys. So I did a little research. There are over 10 million people on the Windows Insider program. Now, granted, they're not all there to catch bugs. A lot of them just want to be in the the latest and the greatest.
Get it first.
So let's say there's 3 million out of the 10 million who are truly bug chasing.
Yeah.
Why in the hell didn't they find this? And I know for a fact Microsoft has an internal dog food program. Every person on that campus is in the insider ring. They have to be. They're all using it.
Which insider ring? All right.
I mean, in the
on
insider
the
program,
Canary?
they have their own ring, but still.
You know, but I will tell you that they should be, if they're on at least the Dever or beta.
Yeah, I mean, this should have not been
ring,
missed.
They should have caught this. All right. Now I will say,
and as Larry said, though, this is not the only one. This is one of many.
Oh, this is one of many, but I will tell you with 100% certainty, Microsoft over the last 2 to 3 years has let too many newsworthy defects hit the consumer market or the enterprise market.
And let's put it in context. Not only have they let that happen, as you say, Chris, not only have they let that happen, and these things hit the news, but they're trying to do it at the same time as they're trying to servicize Windows as a platform and shoving ads down your throats.
Yeah.
So they're pissing you off on multiple layers.
Telling you how much, right?
How much you need Copilot.
Right, that's where I was going,
You need
Joel.
these new services that are not as reliable. Okay. So what I'm saying is they're getting you from both sides, and I don't think that leads to a very happy customer base. I just don't.
No, it clearly does not. And it really, you would think that after a while that there would be a manager, senior manager, associate director, pick a director level, or a VP level that would go ahead and lower the boom and say, damn it, if one of you people let one more story hit the news where we should have caught this, heads are going to roll. Just wait. Go ahead. You know,
let me add it.
Do I feel lucky?
So let me add another piece of this. I ran across a story this week talking about this, and for the first time, this is the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
Windows 10 grew Windows 11 activations shrunk.
That's true.
That did not even happen when Windows 8 came out and people were unhappy. They waited for the new version to come out. So Windows 11 shrinking once Windows 12 came out would have been fine. But Windows 11 shrinking before there was even a new version for Windows 10, for people going back, and there's still millions of people running Windows 7, folks.
Yep.
Oh, I know it. Oh my God!
Not only that,
this is scary.
The telltale sign though was in the numbers, right?
Yes.
The Windows 10 grew at a rate that absolutely was equal to the amount that Windows 11 shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that there tells you.
So what does that tell you?
that your product, your current product,
it tells me that they're not listening.
Right. That people don't want the current product for a variety of reasons. That's what it tells me.
Right. It's too problematic. It's too error prone.
And again, it throws all these other things at you that people don't want. If they don't want it, I don't want all the Copilot AI crap. I don't want the ads. I don't want any of that. I don't like the new versions of a lot of the apps. We've complained on this show about the new Outlook sucks. The new File Manager sucks. We've gone on and on about the problems with these different apps and these different tools that don't quite do. But the new backup doesn't do what I think it ought to do. It only leads you to drive to another one of their products. That's all it does. Okay.
Wow.
I get what they're doing. Again, it's all service, and I understand that they believe that the market is in services, but those aren't services I want.
No,
so as a user, why would I go to 11, or why would I stay on 11 for that matter? It's not doing what I want it to do. You're going to drive me to Linux. You're going to drive me to Mac. You're going to drive me away from the platform.
Exactly. You're going to drive me anywhere else but where you are. And it's going to be funny. It's going to happen eventually at some point in history. And everybody knows this. All right. At some point, Windows is no longer going to be the platform that runs. Why? Because we're going to grow. Our technology is going to grow beyond Windows. All right. Yeah. At some point, it's going to happen. All right. We're going to grow beyond Windows.
It's a thing.
All right.
And it's not Office anymore either, because now, unless you're doing some really fancy Office crap, you can get by with the browser-based version of Word and Excel and so on and so forth. You don't need to have the desktop anymore, right?
I've started to use it actually.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan, because I can feel that slight lag that occurs every time I do it, because it's still web-based, and that still doesn't feel snappy enough for me. And I still do use, especially in Excel, I use a lot of those high-end features. For me, but I'm not the norm. I'm the exception here, guys. I understand that.
Yeah, I'm the casual user, and it works for me.
Microsoft needs to get it together, because they're hastening their departure, if you will. All right.
Do they care? They're going into cloud and Azure and things like that. So do they care?
I think they do. I think they do, because
I think they should.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, you consider that. Okay. What do you still see taught in schools in the computer literature classes? It ain't Mac OS. It's Windows.
It is.
And it's Office, and it's things like that. I am a frequent criticizing of classes that specifically teach that. I'm like, teach word processing, don't teach Word. Teach people how to get by without something that's got the Microsoft brand name on
application.
But
teach me a task. Teach me a thing.
Yes.
Right. Don't teach me that one particular application, because honestly.
But nobody's doing that.
Well, you need to.
Not now.
No.
They used to.
They didn't used to. Trust me, they didn't use.
No, they did, because when Chris and I were in college, we were taught on Macs to write. We weren't taught to write. I mean, we were taught to write on typewriters. We started using Macs. We didn't go to Windows, because Windows wasn't there at that point to do that. But the point I'm getting at is it hasn't always been that way. I know early on I was taught that with one particular writing class back on WordPerfect. WordPerfect was the thing at the time, right? So there were things going on that were different. There was a little more flexibility, mostly because people didn't know where things were going. So
Yeah.
There was a little more going on there then, but you're right. It still was application centric to an extent, but less so than it is now. I'm with you.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, the thing is Office ain't going to keep people on Windows anymore.
Nope.
No,
I mean, it just isn't.
No, it's not. And that's a good point. You know, right?
But they're hoping that Teams will. They're hoping that,
Teams ain't going to do it either.
Teams is not going to do it either because it's
horrible.
It's a dumpster.
Well, it has its own challenges, that's for sure. Its own limitations.
That is the politically green way of saying it's a dumpster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
All right. But that's just me. Anyway.
Yeah.
And speaking of dumpster fires.
Yeah,
that which was formerly known as Windows Mobile, which wasn't so much of a dumpster fire as it just something that
they gave up on.
Well, they gave up. They did. They gave up on it. They did. Even when it was Windows Phone and really could have been something a little bit more.
They even acknowledged that they shouldn't have.
They did.
Yep.
They did. Yep. And again, I still blame Ballmer for this. He didn't understand the platform, but
he didn't.
But why are we mentioning all that? Joel, you're taking a trip. You've actually climbed into the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I was dicking around on eBay, and I like to do that because I like to collect old crap. Essentially, and I bought one of the last HP iPACs they ever made, which was the HX 4700. And I took a picture of it and I shared it just to show how much smaller this was once large device.
Yep.
Oh, the HX 4700 was considered to be a huge Windows Mobile device.
It was.
All right, very tall.
It was kind of thick, but
it was heavy too for the time.
Yep. Yeah, but let me tell you, it's actually lighter than my Pixel 6 Pro.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and unfortunately, being that it's 20 years old, it's not going to be very useful today. It's I need to get another battery. That's coming because right now it'll only live when it's plugged into the charger that I bought. But from all respects, it does bring back some memories. I used to write themes for it when I was using. I think my last one I had was probably the 4355, the iPad.
I don't know which one I had, but I had one.
I had that one, and I had the 5550, which was I think that was the
iPad
last
5000
one.
series was a really great series device.
It was, and it was one of the last ones that had the unique thing that Compaq and HP had, which was the holster case thing.
It did.
You would stick it in, and because the original iPad 3600 series did not have a compact flash slot.
Yeah.
So you had to buy a sleeve to put it in. And I kind of miss that a little bit, because that was one of the nice things is if you're going someplace where all you needed was something to have your alarms and your calendar with you, you just took the device itself and left the sleeve at home if you didn't need it,
right?
And throw it into a protective sleeve or something, and you're good to go. Not to mention the fact, but when you look at the technology that was based on and how far we've come, now I don't need a stylus to operate my phone. You absolutely do need a stylus to use any iPad.
Yep, it's true.
Because it's completely. You can try doing it with your fingernail. It doesn't really work all that well, but so you went from having the original resolution was 320 by 240. The 4700 was, as far as I know, the only one that had a full VGA screen.
Yep, it did.
Yeah, and which the screen itself for the time, very beautiful, but it's just pales in comparison to almost the cheapest smartphone nowadays.
Yeah.
So, and I only paid $20 for this thing,
But
which was originally
it was a different time though.
originally a $600 or $700 device back in the
And
day.
it had sort of a mini trackpad built into it, which people didn't
Right.
have at the time. That was all unique for the time.
Yep.
Fascinating device. I liked it. It was a great device.
It makes me sad that both, you had Microsoft who could have challenged iOS and Android.
They could have.
They just didn't put enough work into the platform.
Yeah.
And the same thing. Well, you can say the same thing with the Zune and the iPod. I have a Zune.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I did not buy it until it was pretty much out of support either, because that seems to be what I do.
Fair enough.
It was, well, not to mention the fact it was, it's kind of nostalgia, and it's like, what if, I bought it because what if I had this device back then, and I'm thinking I would have liked it back then, but
yeah,
now you can't connect it to pretty much any modern Wi-Fi router because it doesn't support WPA2. It does have Bluetooth on it. If I had one of the supported phones, like the old T68 from Sony Ericsson, I could probably use GPRS with it, but why would I want to?
Sure.
So it can just look nice sitting in my office as a memory of what was.
Sure.
So
Speaking of what was, in all honesty, I mean, I like every toy that I have, but I had the 950 XL Lumia, the last one they made.
Yeah.
That was the last phone that I had true fun using. The rest of them are just another device.
I have the last
They
couple.
like that phone.
I had the actual Lumia before I had the 1050, which was the big one.
Right.
And there was there was in those hard plastics that made it at that point, the bright colors. And I have the 950, and they were great devices. And I wish they still ran well. They were. I liked Windows Phone. I missed that interface because it was a fun
you and I have
interface
talked
to use.
about that.
And there was a lot of. I mean, you got great.
The only thing I don't
screen.
miss, the only thing I don't miss.
What's that?
Active Stink.
Active
wait,
Stink.
No, but you know what?
I called it Active Stink, but Active
became-
Sync.
But in the last few flavors of the operating system, that stopped being a thing. Really, you really weren't dependent on it the way you were with Pocket PCs. You didn't need it the same way. You were much more Wi-Fi dependent and things like that. So Active Sync became less of a thing. So they did kind of resolve most of that. Windows Phone 8, Windows Phone 10, neither really, you didn't need it. You could drag stuff onto it. It had you could connect it and drag things just like you did to and from a PC. You didn't need Active Sync to do that. So those I miss those. And we can talk. We've talked about it before. I'm sure we'll talk about those things again. But it's kind of nice to go back and see. There were some very clever things going on back in the day back then. And some of those things have carried on now, and some of those things have not carried on now. And it's be kind of nice to see that level of cleverness and innovation kind of flash up again across the market, but it really hasn't.
Yeah.
Very true.
We've commoditized now.
We have. And it's something else that has really kind of happened in the last, I want to say week or two, that really may end up being a good thing for this particular
company
thing, application, whatever, is LastPass has been spun off as a separate company. And Larry, I know that this one's been near and dear to you.
It's not that itself is near and dear to my heart at all. It's just that every single geek out there who can call themselves a true geek has, you all know this, you gravitate to one app type, one genre of apps or another. For me, it was initially email clients. I mean, I go back to Eudora version 1.
Oh gosh, I remember Eudora.
Every single app since then in email. And when password apps came around, I was a password app junkie. I've tried and used and probably bought every one of them. And the problem with LastPass, it's been now 18 months since their last breach, I know, not to mention the 3 breaches prior to that.
Yeah.
But I have 2 thoughts. Number one, being pragmatic, they're long past the point of being afforded a second chance. They're done. They need to fold up the tent, let the other 10 good password managers take over, the ones who have never, not once, ever experienced a breach. Now, I know there are a lot of folks who are going to say it'll eventually happen to them too. But in a way, I disagree because the top five today have been in business over 20 years. They have never been breached. I think technology is on their side. I think their encryption is on their side. I don't think they're not gonna, the odds support them. I don't think they're going to be breached. I think failure with LastPass was human error in all 4 instances.
I think that's
But all
true.
of this said, a small part of me wishes this hadn't have happened because I don't care what you say, that app had the best looking UI. It had the best functioning UX in iPhone and Android of any of them. It was a great app. Joel, you'll back me up. I'll bet you will. But it had problems and it just couldn't make it.
So the
People.
interface was great, but they kind of
Right.
screwed up on the other end of
Support
things.
sucked. Yeah, their support sucked, but the product, it was a great product. It was ahead of its time, and they failed somewhere along the line with handling their data or other people's data. So I don't know. I get why a lot of people still use it. I mean, this thing is still rated 4.2 or 4.3 in the App Store. Come on. I don't know how it does it, but it does.
Yeah. I mean, I was a LastPass user. I used the free one, and
it was a good free version.
Yeah, I used it until all these recent things happened, and I haven't used it. And I really haven't replaced it either. With the advent of MFA, I really, I at least any of my MFA accounts usually have the same password because MFA, it's like
if you do, you might. I'm not a super big fan for what I use it for, but I do like that Bitwarden is a tremendously good open source app. It really, really is. But
But now they're on their own, so that's the story. How they're on their own.
Now
we'll
they're
see
on their
what
own,
happens.
and they have the opportunity here to.
They're going to have to build their reputation up again.
I was just going to say they have the opportunity to rebuild their image. They have the opportunity to rebuild their application. They have the opportunity to rebuild their reputation from the ground up, and that's.
But they're a separate company, but their parent company is still the same. That's the problem.
Ah, gotcha.
We'll see.
We will see.
But it's unfortunate.
Hey.
It is. It is.
Hey, nothing lasts forever.
No, it does not, and Microsoft should be, aware of that as well.
They should be. and sometimes the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right?
True.
They need to watch themselves because they're really not watching right now. All this crap that's going on that they're doing, and how people are getting pissed off about it.
Yep.
So don't become the same, guys. Don't become the same. Please listen to what we're saying.
Yep. But again, that's just me, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I want to go ahead at this point, and I want to move us to our tip of the week segment. But before we actually get to the actual tip, which is a very good one, by the way, I want to remind everybody, hey, iTechGear was founded with the intent of making technology easy for everyone to understand and use. This team specifically has been dedicated their writing careers to that specific purpose. And every week we are going to be bringing in the iTechGear Weekly, and it'll also appear on the site, a brand new or a new computing tip authored by one of our most experienced editors. And we'll bring it here for your benefit. And if you have questions or requests or suggestions or whatnot, hey, hit us up at tips@iTechGear.org, and we'll see what we can do about giving you your 15 minutes of fame, or at the very, very least, answering your question. This week, I want to go ahead and speak to the use of either strong passwords or a passkey. All right. Now, what is a passkey? A passkey is effectively a soft electronic token that says that verifies your specific personality. There are a lot of websites that are out there. I think, Larry, you said you had over 250
Well, no,
passkeys.
I have over 250 logins. Right now, if you go to the one site that shows all of the sites in the world that have passkeys, there are only 135. Unfortunately, this is slow to adopt, but it's great.
But passkeys are wonderful. Effectively, you kind of go ahead, you put in your user ID, and it says, okay, you either have the opportunity to create a passkey or use a passkey. You use a passkey, you click another button that says, blip. Okay, you've got the cookie, you've got the bits, you're in. We verified who you are, and that's it. And there's nothing that you enter at all. A strong password, however, is something that is longer than 8 characters, or even 12 characters. It's long. It uses upper and lowercase lettering. It uses numbers. It uses special characters, and it takes you away from your birthday, your dad's birthday, your pet's name, something that might be easily guessed not only by you but by anybody and everybody else under the sun. It is vital for preventing unauthorized access and protecting your personal information. You should avoid, like I said, using things like the word password or variations of the word password, even if it has upper and lowercase letters and numbers and letters. Don't stick away from the word password. Get away from sequential numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Instead, use a combination of letters, numbers, special characters, as I said, and consider using a reputable password manager, which unfortunately is not LastPass yet. There are a few more that are out there. I like 1Password. I know, Larry, you use 1Password.
I do.
As well.
I also use Apple's Keychain.
Yep. Apple's Keychain password generator, and you can use it from with your iPhone, and any iDevice. You can also use it on Windows if you install
absolutely, and
iCloud
in Chrome,
for Windows.
In Chrome on your Mac, you can now use it.
Yep. I would go ahead and while you can use autofill on your browser, I'd stick away from using that stuff on your browser. Just go ahead and either type it in, or use the password manager to autofill for you. But don't use the autofill on your browser. All right. And that is effectively this week's tip of the week. Use if you're going to use if you have to use the password, and most sites now require that you do. I would go ahead and use something that we also call a passphrase. Pick a small sentence, all right, of 4 to 5 words, and string it all together, upper and lowercase letters, numbers, something that's easy to remember. And I can guarantee you a passphrase is going to be, even if it's just all lowercase letters, it's going to be very difficult to get to. So there you go, kids.
You know what people don't realize, Chris, and I've done a fair amount of studying on this. They don't realize there's a fine line between what gets hacked and what doesn't get hacked. And you really don't see that until you study it a little bit. If you will pick an 18-character password, as Chris mentioned, generated randomly of uppercase, lowercase numbers, and at least one special character, that's all. 18 of these little characters takes 81 years for the best hacker in the world. 81 years.
I can tell you that we have to follow a lot of standards that the IRS sets for computer security. Right. And their current recommendation, I believe the requirement is 14 characters is the minimum. And they recently knocked that up from where it had been. So that goes to show you exactly what you're saying, Larry. It just reiterates what you're saying. Everybody acknowledges that longer is better. It's annoying, but it's better.
But that's where the password manager comes into play. You can have every one of them have 50 characters 'Cause you
It
don't
wouldn't
care.
matter. It just, once you go ahead and you sign in with your master password into your
And everything
password
stays on
manager.
your device when you do
Yep.
that. It never goes away from it.
True.
So anyway,
So there you go.
good stuff,
You are
Chris.
so correct.
So in this case, size does matter. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And now let's go ahead and move to our pick of the week
My.
segment.
Now that we have HR listening in.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
Let's go ahead and move to our pick of the week segment. But again, before we get there, I want to take a moment here to remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually use, and that we like enough that we want to bring them to you, our growing listener base. These are not paid advertisements or items for which we have any kind of affiliated marketing relationship with. These are just things that we like. And if they were some sort of thing that we were getting some sort of a fee for, the editorial policy over at iTechGear says that we have to mention that up front. Again, these are just things that we like a lot, and we want to bring them to you at the end of our show. Why?
Because we like you.
There you go, kids. And this week, Larry, you've got the pick.
I do. And actually, my pick is not really that innovative or new.
No, but
and
it's a
the people who made it, Apple, certainly didn't pay us anything.
Nope.
But I do think it's worthy of the spotlight for a couple of good reasons. In my own use case, I don't own a mouse pad. I have a desk pad. And on it, you're going to find the Apple trackpad, Magic Trackpad, an Apple Magic Mouse, an Apple Magic Keyboard, and the Logitech MX3 Apple Mouse. I use them all for different things, but I will say I use the trackpad and the Apple trackpad and the MX3 Logitech mouse more than any of them. If you're a trackpad person, my advice is just go ahead, spend the $129 and get the good trackpad. There's a little history behind the surface of this trackpad. It has on it nano textured glass. So that was the start of the nano textured glass that Apple now puts on their high-end monitors, the studio display, and the one that went with the Apple Pro display. So there was there's a texture to this that it's just constantly smooth. I don't care if your fingers are sweaty or you've been eating corn on the cob or whatever, you're gonna have no trouble with this trackpad. It just works. It doesn't. A lot of trackpads will have a worn spot where they get shiny, which is where you always put your finger. Not on this one. You can use it for years. It'll look the same. It's designed with comfort in mind. They did I did a lot of research on this. There is actually some work they did with ergonomical engineers to make sure you don't get as much carpal tunnel syndrome as you could get with a mismanufactured device. So overall, it's just a great device. When I want to do something truly precise, I get better results with this than I do a mouse. I don't know why. It's just, maybe it's me, but it's my precision go-to.
It's interesting that you say that, because overall, it has been my experience, historically speaking, that when it comes to trackpads, there is nobody that beats Apple. I'm sorry. I've tried other pads.
I have too.
Pads on Windows machines typically are terrible. They from Synaptics or whoever. I think comparatively, if you've used an Apple trackpad, then you go to use one of these, you think they're awful. So I think the Apple trackpads are amazing, and have been. Even on, we talked earlier about in the pre-show, even about the small one that's on the current iPad Magic Keyboard.
Right.
It's still
so
a good
precise.
trackpad. It's very good, even as small as it is, even as I'm going to call it cheap a device compared to putting one into a separate trackpad device or putting one into a MacBook is.
It's not even glass. It's not even glass.
No, but Apple spends a lot of time and energy, as you just said. They talk to medical people about carpal tunnel. They look at engineering of it. They look at the feel of it. do a ton of testing on these things, and I have yet to be not impressed with most of these Apple trackpads. They're just so good. So it's nice
And
to hear
they've
this,
not
this
changed the
product
one
is
they have in years, so that speaks volumes right there.
right. And it's the haptics on the trackpads and their laptops are phenomenal. You think you're
Yep.
pushing when you're not really. I mean, it's really well done. And so I've been debating back and forth to buying the external trackpad because I don't need it for a lot of my devices, but there are things I could use it for. And I thought, maybe I will. You know, I go back and forth. So this might push me over the edge, Larry. Thanks.
Yeah, well, the new one has the USB-C connection, which I
Yeah.
find not worthy of buying a new one for, but
But if you don't
anyway,
have one,
it's a good device. If you're on the edge, go ahead and buy one.
There you go. I'm excited now.
And see, and there you go. And you know what? That's the show. This has been, kids, the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 88, sending 1.21 gigawatts directly into the Flux Capacitor. Recorded live Sunday, May 5th, El Cinco de Mayo, Christopher. There you go. Live from my
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, kids. And for Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, Mr. Chris Gavula, and Brother Joe McLaughlin, this is Christopher Spera saying we will see you next time.